Hello and welcome to Indus News, live from Islamabad. I'm Naila Shudra and these are the headlines. In Afghanistan, the Taliban claim to have completely captured the two important provinces of Badakhshan and Baghlan. However, in Doha, the Taliban said they are committed to the negotiation path and do not want it to collapse. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden has ruled out any change in the withdrawal of his troops from Afghanistan. Talking to reporters at the White House, Biden urged the Afghan leaders to come together and fight for their nation. In Algeria, 42 people, including 25 soldiers, have died in wildfires that erupted in the east of the capital, Algiers. Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman says that the government has asked for help from the international community. He said they are also in talks with partners to hire planes to extinguish the fires. In Myanmar, at least 3 people have died after reportedly jumping from an apartment to escape a security forces raid. Several others have been critically injured in the incident that occurred in Yangon's Bahutong district. Meanwhile, the UN Special Envoy on Myanmar, Christine Schreiner Bergner, has warned of a full-scale civil war in the country. Brazil has reported over 1,200 deaths and more than 34,000 infections overnight. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 81 more people have lost their lives to the virus, while nearly 4,800 tested positive in the last 24 hours. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 4.3 million lives and infected over 204 million people so far. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be back after a short break. Welcome back. In Afghanistan, the Taliban claim to have completely captured the two important provinces of Badakhshan and Baghlan. In a tweet, spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid said that the fighters have also killed an Afghan Air Force pilot in Kabul. The latest on the situation in Afghanistan in this report. The Taliban now hold 9 provincial capitals and 2 provinces as fighting rages across the war-torn country. However, the group insists that it is committed to the negotiations in Doha and do not want it to collapse. But Kabul says the Taliban have no interest in any dialogue. An Afghan government delegation member demanded the international community to pressure the Taliban to show seriousness. The attendees called for a permanent and comprehensive ceasefire and an inclusive government in the country. Pakistan, China, Russia, and the United States are set to meet in Doha today to further exchange views on the issue. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden has ruled out any change in the withdrawal of his troops from Afghanistan. Talking to reporters at the White House, Biden urged the Afghan leaders to come together and fight for their nation. Russia says it will regularly conduct drills with its Central Asian allies near the Afghan border. Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu says that the practice will ensure the security preparations in case of a potential attack. Shoigu said that the hasty withdrawal of foreign troops from Afghanistan triggered a swift de-escalation of the situation. He warned of the rise of terrorists and a surge in their activity. The Russian defense minister said this situation requires taking appropriate measures. The remarks came as Russia completed joint exercises on the Afghan border with troops from Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. In Pakistan, Turkey's defense minister Hulusi Akar has called on the army chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa to discuss the Afghan peace process. The military's media wing says matters of mutual interest and overall regional security were also discussed. The two sides vowed to boastful efforts for peace in the region. The visiting dignitary reaffirmed Turkey's full support to Pakistan's stance on regional and international issues. Pakistan has vowed to enhance bilateral cooperation with Ukraine in all areas of mutual interest. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said this in a phone call with his Ukrainian counterpart, Dmitry Kuleba. Qureshi highlighted Pakistan's focus on geoeconomics as per the vision of Prime Minister Imran Khan. He reiterated the importance of augmenting economic ties between Pakistan and the Ukraine. The two extended invitations to each other to undertake bilateral visits. Iraq's Foreign Minister Dr. Fuad Hussein is arriving in Islamabad today on an official visit. The Foreign Office said the two will deliberate on bilateral relations and cooperation in various fields. It added that the Iraqi Foreign Minister will also call on the Pakistani leadership. The visit comes in the backdrop of a number of ministerial-level visits from both sides in the past few months. Earlier, Foreign Minister Qureshi visited Iraq in May, and further high-level exchanges are planned in the coming months. In Myanmar, at least 3 people have died after reportedly jumping from an apartment to escape a security forces raid. Several others have been critically injured in the incident that occurred in Yangon's Bohatong district. The UN Special Envoy on Myanmar, Christine Schreiner-Bergner, has warned of a full-scale civil war in the country. She said the military ruler Min Aung Hlaing appears determined to solidify his grip on power after taking on the prime minister's role. Meanwhile, Myanmar's foreign minister says China will provide $6 million to fund development projects in the country. Earlier, Washington announced $50 million aid for the COVID-19 relief. North Korea says the United States and South Korea are risking a huge security crisis by choosing to escalate tensions. This comes a day after Supreme Leader's sister Kim Yo-jong warned Seoul and Washington over the annual joint military drills. A top Workers' Party official, Kim Jong-chol, said that the two responded to Pyongyang's goodwill with hostile acts. In a statement, Kim said South Korea defied the opportunity to make a turn in relations. He warned that Seoul will pay dearly for choosing its alliance with the United States over peace between the Koreas. Meanwhile, Pyongyang refused to answer South Korea's hotline calls for a second consecutive day. A Chinese court has convicted a Canadian businessman of espionage, sentencing him to 11 years in prison. The Dandong Immediate Court said Michael Spavor was involved in the crime of illegal provision of state secrets abroad. In a statement, the court said that the convict's personal assets in China will be confiscated and he will be deported. However, the statement did not explicitly state when the deportation would take place. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has called Spavor's sentencing an unacceptable and unjust. Spavor was detained in December 2018, days after Canada arrested Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou. His sentencing comes as Meng's lawyers in Canada make a final push to convince the court they're not to extradite her to the United States. Meanwhile, China has urged the European Union to earnestly respect the spirit of the rule of law and the country's judicial sovereignty. This comes after the EU External Action Service expressed concern over the death penalty verdict for a convicted Canadian drug smuggler. The Chinese mission to the EU termed the statement a reckless interference in China's internal affairs. A spokesperson for the mission called on the body to stop making irresponsible remarks. In a statement, he said that every country takes a hard line on drug-related crimes. The spokesperson added that a death sentence for drug-related crimes will help deter and prevent such menaces. Brazil has reported over 1,200 deaths and more than 34,000 infections overnight. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 4.3 million lives and infected over 204 million people so far. More in this report. The recent surge of COVID-19, driven by the Indian Delta variant, has worsened the global coronavirus vaccine divide. The World Health Organization has urged the 20 most powerful nations to overturn the disgraceful global imbalance in access to vaccines. China says it has sent some 770 million doses of vaccines to over 100 countries and organizations, ranking first in the world in terms of vaccine donations. The United Kingdom is preparing to offer COVID-19 booster jabs in the country from the next month. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Angela Merkel says her country's vaccination drive is not satisfactory.
Jetzt haben wir genug Impfstoff. We now have enough vaccines and we must lobby so that people can get vaccinated. On an European scale, we are no longer at the top. There is a number of countries which do better and which are more vaccination friendly. As of today, 55.1% of the population is fully vaccinated and 62.5% have been vaccinated once.
The Delta variant is now wreaking havoc in the Oceania. New Zealand has designated Indonesia and Fiji as very high-risk countries due to the escalating COVID-19 case numbers. Australia has also extended lockdown in its second biggest city of Melbourne for a second week amid surging Delta cases. Meanwhile, South Korea continues to grapple with its worst outbreak to date due to the Delta variant and reported record new daily cases.
With the recent spread of the more transmissible Delta virus, the number of confirmed cases is increasing, showing mass infection cases from workplace, indoor sports facilities, churches, and nursing hospitals. Along with that, the rate of investigating the path of infection is also rising, which means silent spreaders within communities are increasing.
In Thailand, police fired tear gas and rubber bullets at protesters calling for the government to resign over its handling of the pandemic. Meanwhile, in the U.S. state of Louisiana, hospitals are struggling to keep up with the huge surge in COVID-19 patients, also fueled by the Delta variant. Pakistan has reported 81 deaths from coronavirus in the past 24 hours, raising the toll to 24,085. The health ministry says over 4,800 people tested positive in the past 24 hours. The positivity rate of overnight cases was 7.5. Pakistan has so far reported over 1,080,000 cases. The ministry says more than 972,000 people have recovered from the disease. It noted over 39 million doses of vaccine have been administered to date. Pakistan is observing National Minority Day to commemorate the contribution of minorities to the progress of the country. In a historic speech on this day in 1947, Quaid-e-Azam pledged to protect minorities' rights in the newly created country. Muhammad Ali Jinnah said that the state has no business to be interfering in individuals' religion, caste, or creed. Events, seminars, and social gatherings are arranged across the country by members of various religious minorities. In their messages, President Arif Alvi and Prime Minister Imran Khan promised protection of all rights of minorities living in Pakistan. Alvi said that the government has been making consistent efforts for the welfare and facilitation of minorities. Khan noted that the government has empowered the Minorities Commission to play its mandated role in an effective manner. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Amnesty International says the Ethiopian government forces have been sexually abusing women and girls in the rest of Tigray. The watchdog says it interviewed medical professionals, humanitarian workers, and 63 survivors of sexual violence. In its report, the Amnesty said that the survivors had been gang raped while held captive for weeks. 28 survivors identified Eritrean forces as the sole perpetrators of rape. The Amnesty said that sexual violence has been used as a weapon of war to inflict lasting physical and psychological damage. It said these occurrences constitute war crimes and may also amount to crimes against humanity. In the United States, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has resigned after an inquiry found he sexually harassed 11 women, but he denies any wrongdoing. The Democrat has faced pressure from his own party to resign since last week, including from President Joe Biden. In a televised address, Cuomo said that the resignation goes into effect in 14 days. Cuomo said he accepts full responsibility for he has characterized as ill-conceived attempts to be affectionate or humorous. Power will now be transferred to Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, who will be the first woman to lead New York. Joe Biden welcomed the governor's announcement, saying he respects Cuomo's decision. The United States Senate has passed a $1 trillion infrastructure bill, marking a big step towards President Joe Biden's domestic agenda. 69 members of the chamber voted in favor of the bill, while 30 against it. The bill will provide the nation's biggest investment in decades in roads, bridges, airports, and waterways. Under the budget plan, Senate committees will have top-line spending levels for a wide range of federal initiatives. Biden touted the bill as transformational, saying the deal proves that the democracy can still work.
For the Republicans who supported this bill, you showed a lot of courage. And I want to personally thank you for that. And I've called most of you on the phone to do just that. You have, and no doubt you will, disagree with me on many issues. But where we can agree, we should. And here on this bill, we prove that we can still come together to do big things, important things for the American people.
The United States and Mexico have vowed to expand their cooperation to manage orderly, safe, and regular migration flows. Top U.S. Homeland and National Security officials met with Mexican Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard in Mexico City. In a tweet, Ebrard termed the meeting productive, saying the bilateral ties are headed in the right direction. In a statement, the Mexican government said the meeting analyzed the recent data on irregular migratory flows in the region. It said Ebrard emphasized the importance of investing in public policies that generate employment in northern Central America. Earlier, Mexican President López Obrador discussed migration and other issues with U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris. Latvia has imposed a state of emergency along the border with Belarus over an inflow of illegal migrants. The country's parliament decided to keep the state of emergency till the 10th of November. Latvia's Interior Ministry said that security measures on the border will be stepped up immediately. Over the past 5 days alone, some 283 trespassers were detained on the border. Overall, this year, 343 illegal migrants have been detained. 42 people, including 25 soldiers, have died in Algeria amid wildfires that erupted in the east of the capital, Algiers. Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman says that the government has sought help from the international community. More in this report. Death, destruction, and despair trail the tracks of the wildfires that are raging in various locations across the world. Algeria's defense ministry says several soldiers have been badly injured with burns. Dozens of fires started in the Kabyle region near Algiers and elsewhere, burning houses and trees and killing cattle. Meanwhile, the European Union says it is mobilizing one of Europe's biggest ever common firefighting operations to help the affected countries. This comes as Greece struggles with wildfires ravaging the island of Evia. Meanwhile, Turkey has contained as many as 274 forest fires, while one continues to burn in the Aegean province of Mughula. Over in Peru, the Air Force is called to help battle the wildfires in the country's Cusco region.
We are trying to manage and control the fire. Why? Because as you can see from the helicopter, the fire is very big. So what we want to do and what we are doing is more than just putting it out. It is about controlling so that it doesn't extend further through the area of Lucre.
In Bolivia, wildfires are sweeping across the country's eastern lowlands. They have burned through over 100,000 hectares of forest in the department of Santa Cruz. Attempts to curb the flames have been unsuccessful amid strong winds.
The fire has given us no respite. We have been trying to stop the fire for 4 or 5 days and the weather changes are playing tricks on us. We are coordinating with the police and other institutions to reduce the traffic on the road until the intensity of the fires decreases. Those of us who are here can feel the high temperature and it is oppressive. We will continue fighting for our Chiquitania.
In the United States, the Dixie Fire burning in Northern California has charged some 500,000 acres, making it the second largest wildfire in state history. Temperatures have risen across the Pacific Northwest as residents of Portland, Oregon and Washington prepare for a third heat wave. Meanwhile, in Canada, the White Rock Lake fire continued to smolder in British Columbia. In Chile, a decade-long drought in the capital, Santiago, has gone from bad to worse due to scorching in July. Officials say that such happenings at the time of the year when the city is usually in rain and snow are clear evidence of global warming. More in this report. A lack of precipitation this year has left the towering and typically snow-capped Andes above Santiago mostly bare, reservoir levels low, and farm fields parched. The city's central weather station recorded just 78 millimeters of rainfall so far this year. It is drastically less than last year's 180 millimeters and an average amount of 252 millimeters.
We are facing the worst hydrological crisis, the worst drought in our history. We are in the 13th year of drought. We have never had more than 4 consecutive years before. This has been the driest period of Chile's history since the start of the registers.
Some scientists and politicians in Chile are warning of growing and potentially irreversible water shortages in the central region. Officials have warned that 2 rivers, the Mapocho and the Maipo, that provide Santiago with water are drier than they were in 2019, the driest year in the country's entire history.
Much of the effects of climate change in the short term and medium term are irreversible. So unfortunately, it is unlikely that the precipitations in Chile's central area of the 80s and 90s will return, that we will recover that type of climate in regards to the temperatures and of extraordinary precipitation. That's unlikely from here on towards the middle of the century.
In a recent report, the United Nations has warned that extreme heat waves, which not long ago struck once every 50 years, are now to be expected once per decade. It said that droughts and downpours might also be much more frequent. Asian stocks are trading mixed ahead of U.S. inflation data, offering a glimpse at how the world's largest economy is recovering. The Nikkei 225 in Tokyo rose close to 0.75%, while Australia's ASX 200 also advanced more than 0.25%. The Kospi in South Korea gave up nearly 0.75%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng also shed marginally. Mainland Chinese markets traded on the flat line. In the Kashmir Premier League, overseas Warriors beat Bal Stallions by 5 wickets in the 9th fixture of the mega event. The win marks their first in the tournament so far. The Warriors successfully chased down a daunting 187-run target. Warriors' Haider Ali was declared man of the match for his brilliant knock of 91 runs. Earlier, the Muzaffarabad Tigers defeated the Kotli Lions by 5 wickets. In today's fixtures, Rawalakot Hawks will meet Bal Stallions, while Kotli Lions will face Mirpur Royals. Football star Lionel Messi has signed a 2-year contract with Paris Saint-Germain after leaving Barcelona. The deal also includes an option for a 3rd year. Under the deal, the 34-year-old Argentinian forward will reportedly earn $41 million per year. In a statement, Messi said that he is excited to begin a new chapter of his career at Paris Saint-Germain. He noted that the club and its vision are in perfect harmony with his ambitions. Messi already is in Paris and will be formally introduced to the team today. He left Barca as they were unable to afford the new deal under La Liga's financial fair play rules. For more on this, we are joined by Mr. Ali Mehdi, a sports expert speaking to us from Islamabad. Ali Mehdi, thank you so much for your time. Now, what made Paris Saint-Germain such an obvious choice for Lionel Messi?
Well, PSG was actually the only financial choice for Lionel Messi. Reason being is because from Barcelona he could not go. He could not stay there because of financial restrictions. La Liga had imposed problems over there. They were under a financial debt crisis due to which he could not stay at FC Barcelona. Other than that, you're talking about other clubs who were interested. PSG was the only viable choice because under the financial fair play rules, they were the only team which would actually afford his wages. He's getting about 650,000 pounds per week and a 2-year contract. So such attractive wages could only be given by PSG, and accordingly there was no other club which was actually bidding for him. So he was the obvious choice. He was a free agent, and PSG was the only viable choice who could actually afford his wages and attract his market value.
All right, Ali, is there any possibility of Messi's return to Barca after the 2-year contract expires or through the inter-club trade?
Well, that's a very good question. It's too early to say whether he will return to FC Barcelona in the near future. Maybe in the long term he could be an ambassador for them or a coach in the future, but I don't think he'll be playing there anymore. A reason being is because right now there's a huge financial crunch on La Liga, and FC Barcelona has struggled for that. All their players have actually gotten about a 50% pay deduction, salary deduction, due to which I don't see Lionel Messi going there in the near future. He has a 2-year contract with PSG, and I do think after that he'll be going to fresher pastures. He could go to America, the US, go to China, but I think for this at this moment of time, there is no plans for him to go back to FC Barcelona in any sort of capacity.
All right. So, Ali, we saw that Messi, Suarez, Neymar's trio, the MSN, achieved at Barca. Would it be a good move for PSG to try to get the gang back together?
I think it's a phenomenal move, Maidam. In fact, I think this is the best transfer window which has ever taken place in the history of the game. You're talking about 4 free transfers in the form of Sergio Ramos, the Real Madrid captain, Wijnaldum, who's come from Liverpool, another great midfielder, to Lionel Messi, the best player on earth, Donnarumma, the Euro 2020 Italian keeper, who actually helped his team win the Euros, and then Hakimi, who actually for 50 million. So I think it's phenomenal, this transfer window for PSG. But if you're talking about the new trio, which is Eminem, Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar, I think it's a very fearsome trio. It's an incredible trident, and if they want to win, I don't think they'll ever get a better opportunity to win trophies. So I think it's probably one of the best. But if you're talking about trophies, I think they'll win domestic trophies. But the big one is the Champions League. For the Champions League, they will need their coach. Pochettino will have to strategically play them very well. He'll need a bit of luck too, but I think they have all the ingredients to win continental and world championships too now.
All right. Ali Mehdi, thank you so much for speaking to Indus News. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at indus.news.